Hi everybody! Thank you for tuning in to Bach Babies episode 1. This interview with Ellie Walters is super fun. She's a really cool story, she's really articulate, and a really cool musician. I hope you enjoy. I will have her social medias linked below and some songs that she might want you to listen to if you want to follow this podcast up with some of her favorite music. I hope you enjoy the episode, and I will see you in the next video. Okay.
The only reason I know how to remember the words to that verse is
I'm like, peace and
love freely
offer here. You know, actually, that's a perfect place to start. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Bach Babies. I am super excited to be talking with Ellie Walters today. Now, Ellie, I first met her last year when I was a freshman. She was a junior in chorale and Jesuits, second semester. She has always been like an inspiration to me. She's kind of like, I call her my choir big sister. She is the voice in the back of the choir that everyone can hear and is always like perfect, and like her work ethic is truly inspirational. She's warm, she's loving, and this year I've gotten to know her through eBoard for Jesuits. She is our music director. And I'm the treasurer, so we got to know each other through that, and through chamber, and she is my music theory tutor. So I'm super excited to talk to her because she is warm and lovely, and we wasted way too much time before this just talking about random stuff. So hi Ellie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I feel like everyone I've talked to this week, it's been like an insane week. It's just like one of those like
all my grad school applications were due on Wednesday. So.
I can't wait to talk about that. I'm sure you're like over it.
No, I still have 2 more to do, so.
I do want to open up though by who is your number 1 artist on Spotify Wrapped?
Actually, it was weird because I had 3 days over the summer where I fell asleep listening to one song by Bruno Major. So I think it's Bruno Major, but I only know that one song, so it's not actually Bruno Major. I think my second artist was, I don't remember. I can look it up. Can I look it up?
Yeah.
Oh, my phone's in the other room. This is my mask. Anyway, I was like, my phone is under here. No.
Where's my phone?
It's I want to say it was like the guy who did, I think my third artist was the guy who did the How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack.
I think it's funny because some people are so embarrassed. My top artist was ABBA, which like, I wasn't surprised.
So
and honestly, I was so good. Yeah, I was like, you know what? It's not like I'm like, you know, I feel like I would be cooler if I was like Jacob Collier or something as my number 1 artist. I'd be like, I'm into underground stuff. But at the same time, one of my friends had Glee as their number 1, so I'm not that.
I think it was like Billy Joel. Billy Joel was on there.
Yeah, Billy Joel. I think Billy Joel was on mine too. Billie Eilish was on mine.
Yeah, she was not on mine. Love her, but she was not on mine.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Good
Well,
stuff.
can I talk to you, a little Cincinnati baby?
Yeah.
If you was there signs as like a bebe growing up that you were going to do music things or that you were musically inclined at all?
Well, my dad was always into like, he's into listening to music, so he like knows a lot of like classic rock, sort of music history, like kind of like trivia facts. I wouldn't call it like music history, but he knows a lot about the bands that he listens to. And he sort of learned piano growing up and regretted dropping it. So when I was 5 and when my brother turned 5, he made us take piano lessons.
Okay.
And then when I was 8, my mom put me in choir. That was more of a like, I think I was like singing around the house. And so my mom was like, choir.
Right.
So I have been playing piano ever since, and I have not yet missed a year of choir. I had to quit piano lessons my senior year of high school, and I didn't take my freshman year of college because I wasn't a music major, but those are the only 2 years that I haven't been playing piano. And I am proud of my record of always being in a choir since the age of 8. So
yeah, that's impressive. Was that always like choir through church when you were young?
It was the Cincinnati Children's Choir,
okay.
So it's kind of like the Chicago Children's Choir here. It's a little bit different program, but they're similar.
And did you kind of meet like a core group of people there at all, or like what did that
Yeah.
offer you at a young age?
I have a core group of friends. I mean, everybody has that like thing growing up where they're like, all of my friends hate me, I don't have any friends, so like I went through that, obviously, you know, like,
right. Some of us are still in that stage.
But we're over that. So yeah, like definitely a core group of friends. That choir was my main source of like music education, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I learned how to read music in piano lessons, and like poorly, I think. It took me like a long time to learn to read music, actually, because I started out with this one teacher, and then like a couple years into teaching me, she stopped teaching lessons in favor of her school job. She taught at my elementary school, and so she just like didn't have time to do both.
Sure.
So I had to find a new teacher, and my new teacher was surprised that I didn't already know how to read music. And that was like one of my biggest things growing up, was like I memorized music really quickly.
Yep.
So like I would like play it a couple times and then be memorized, and so because I wasn't reading it every time I played it, I wasn't good at reading music.
No, I found that earlier in the year. I think it was in my music business class that someone was talking about, like, they were talking about the Suzuki method.
Yeah.
And my brother played violin, he learned the Suzuki method, so I feel like I kind of, like, threw him, just because we would, like, listen to it every morning when we ate breakfast. Like, the little tracks, like, fiddlesticks and stuff like that. And I realized, like, honestly, and it was terrifying, because I was a sophomore, like, and a music major, and I was like, oh my god, I just am really good at, like, listening and picking it up, and I was like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, like, you know, the program was great at the time, but that rely on just, like, your ear, which is nice, but then it was like, that was my crutch for everything, so that was kind of terrifying. I'm glad that you got to find out maybe that was a issue earlier than I did.
I mean, I've had a lot of time to fix it. I think that issue was really quickly resolved when I started playing saxophone in middle school.
Okay, yeah, tell me about that.
Because, so they, like, had us little 5th graders, like, come into the 6th grade band room, and they, like, played all the instruments for us, and we had to, like, fill out a form saying what we wanted, and I was, like, saxophone. Like, I don't know why I was
that's so interesting.
Like, I was, like, I'm playing that. And, they, like, sent out a form home to the parents of all the kids who wanted to play sax, and they were like, we have too many sax players.
Oh.
Please pick a secondary instrument. And I wrote back, no. I was like, I'm playing saxophone.
Hey, that's the attitude.
My dad was like, she will not play anything else. And so,
like, we're gonna double down. She will be your best sax player, but she will be a sax player.
Will be playing the saxophone. So I picked up the saxophone in 5th grade, 6th grade, the summer between. My cousin, like, let me play on his, and I, like, got a head start or whatever. And then, so I played in 6th grade, and then we were in trimesters. In middle school, so it was like, most of the first semester was trimester 1, and then before and then after break was trimester 2, and then because I mean breaks in middle school are only 2 weeks long, like Christmas break is not a month like it is in college, and then it's
like a mini DePaul schedule.
Trimester. So I spent 1 trimester in 7th grade on alto, and then as soon as they held auditions for diversifying the band into all of the other instruments, they like brought out all the other instruments again to show us all the other instruments, like French horn, trombone, tuba, euphonium, bari sax, tenor sax, bass clarinet, all of that stuff, oboe, bassoon. When they brought out the bari sax, I was like, I'm playing that. So I have not, like, formally played my alto since I started playing bari sax second trimester of 7th grade. So
I love that, though, that you, like, were immediately, like, you knew what you wanted and you were right about what you wanted. Like, that, I think that in itself is sometimes a gift. Like, I feel thankful for that with, like, my majors. I'm like, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like, people talk about it, I'm like, should I be a chemistry major? Like, I never had that thought.
No, it's weird that you say that, because I did have those moments with my major, though. Because, like, when I was choosing a major, when I was filling out the Common App or whatever, I was like, I don't know what to major in. And I was like, I want to be a surgeon, so I'm just going to have to pick something in STEM. And so I was in AP Chem at the time, and I was like, I really like this. I love my teacher. I'm just going to pick chemistry as a placeholder, and I'll find something else later. Well, the deadlines came and went, and I had put chemistry down on all my applications, so that's what I went with. And so I got here, and I like went through my first year as a chemistry major, and then like, I don't know, halfway through second semester, I was like, I am constantly like in the practice room playing piano as a stress reliever, so maybe I should just be a music major.
Yeah. So was the only thing like your freshman year, first semester, were you in choir?
I was in chorale. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in chorale. And
so was that the only music thing you were involved in? That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I had the same thing. I didn't even do choir in my first semester.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just didn't know what it was like to not have choir, because I just always grew. And then high school, it was like just built into my schedule like 3 times a day, because that's just where I was needed. And then it was nothing, and I was like, I panicked.
So weird. I cannot imagine not being in choir. I mean, I was never in school choir growing up, because I was always in the Cincinnati Children's Choir.
Right.
I like dabbled in school choir in high school, but like not really. Like, I was serious. I was band kid by day, choir kid by night. So
I love that. That was diverse.
Yes.
Did you ever play in like Pitt for any sort of?
No. I play Barry sax.
I was gonna say quirky show.
Well, you know, my high school was very small, and it was an all-girls Catholic high school, and so our orchestra was 3 altos, like 3 violins, and a percussionist.
Wow, okay.
Who played marimba. And so I didn't own my own sax at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was renting a Barry sax from the boys' high school where I did marching band.
Okay.
And I didn't drive at the time, so I would like have to carry the saxophone on the bus, and the bus the bus driver would be like, "You're not allowed to bring that on the bus," and I was like, so I was like,
I feel like that says something about him if he is creating the bus environment to be such a liability to.
I was like, she was a woman, and I was like, "Oh, ma'am." Like, I know that it was the public school buses that would take us to the public school, and then we would transfer buses to go to the private school, because they were required within a certain radius to bus us to the private schools. So, the public school driver would not let me take my sax on the bus, and my parents were like, no. And no.
Excuse me.
And so we filed a complaint or something, and after that she had no issues. I was like, she had to open up the side of the bus and put it under, because she wouldn't let me carry it on the bus, because it extended 3 inches into the aisle, and she wasn't having it. But I had never had that issue up to that point, because I was busing my sax back and forth before that. So I was like,
you're like, this is nothing new.
I've never had a good public bus experience.
Me neither.
Except kindergarten.
I was just gonna say, when I was in 3rd grade, on the first day of school on the bus back, and I think it was 3rd grade, I don't remember. First of all, the school I went to was really shady, and one of the reasons why we moved. But the bus was 30 minutes late. So it's this corral of children waiting for the bus, bus E or green or whatever we called it then. And it was not a regular bus driver. And he didn't know where the stops were, where any of us lived. So he just started kicking us out at random stops. Yep. And I have no sense of direction. I had no sense of direction. So I was dropped off at this random corner. I think some parent found me and picked me up. It was a mess, but my mom was fuming. So,
I've gotten in bus accidents before. Nothing major, just my bus driver rear-ended a pickup truck, and we were ugh.
No, one of the best days of my life was driving to school for the first time, because it was I can get there on I would get to school. I would normally have chamber choir 0 hour, so I would get to school 20 minutes before chamber choir. So I'd be up, but I'm an early bird, so I'd be leaving the house at 6:50, and I had to drag my brother along with me, which God bless him. He would come with me, but I had control. Whereas on the bus, sometimes we'd be late, sometimes and kids are mean.
Yeah, I love driving to school. I am not an early bird, so so my high school was really weird with its scheduling, but there were two classes that were combination classes. So the one that I took was American Studies, which was English and Social Studies my junior year.
Interesting.
And it started before school. It was called an early bird class. And it started at 7:10 because everyone else started at 8:09.
09?
Yep.
Okay.
So because the way our schedule was arranged was 20-minute periods with 3-minute passing time. So each class was not 1 period; it was 2 or 3 periods.
Oh, okay.
And then so each class was 43 minutes long, or 63 minutes, or 66 minutes long. And then there were some science labs that were 4 periods.
Okay.
So like AP Chem lab was 4 periods.
Right.
And then we didn't have a scheduled lunchtime, and then we were not in class all day. So like it's very college-like, except everything, like the bell would ring at every period. So
interesting.
So like I would get to school for my early bird, and then we called them mods, our periods. So I would get to school, do the early bird portion, go to homeroom, come back for mods 1 and 2, and then I would have a break for 3 mods, and then I would.
Oh, that's nice.
And then you can just like screw around in the school. So like in the hallways, you just like sit in the hallways. There's people sleeping in the hallways all the time.
Oh my god. I like that. Did you find that then with that structure, was it a little bit easier for you to like ease into a college schedule? Because I think like I would be like, it was like 8 periods a day, and because I joined extra choirs, I just didn't have a lunch like junior and senior year.
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of like. It was actually weirder to me. It was like going backwards towards middle school scheduling to come to college, actually, because we also had, most schools have like an A and B day, like a rotating schedule every other day.
Especially now with COVID, that's what like most schools are doing now.
We had a 6-day rotating schedule, so like nobody had their schedule memorized. So it would be like in the front of the, like, so there's 18 periods a day and 6 days of schedule. So like it would be like A, B, C, D, and E day on 1 week, and then the next week would be F, A, B, C, D. So like every week was different, every day was different. So there was like, so the fact that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday I have the same classes is more similar to like what my middle school scheduling used to be, like the 8 periods a day kind of thing. It was really complicated, but it was
kudos to you guys for being able to like deal with that and handle it.
Yeah, it was nice. And then like, but the weird thing was we weren't like allowed to leave early.
Okay.
So like if we called them frees. If we had frees at the end of the day when we weren't in class, we weren't allowed to leave. You had to stay.
So you study hall type thing?
Yeah, not really. You just had to like sit around in the school until like school got out, and you could only leave early as a senior.
Okay, yeah.
And you couldn't leave, like if I had, because some seniors had really open schedules, so if I had like 5 frees in the middle of the day, that's over 2 hours of free time. So like, it's a little under 2 hours, but like I could leave, go get lunch, and come back, right? Theoretically, no, we weren't allowed to.
That's interesting. Oh, that's true. I didn't even factor in that.
Because we were high school age girls, so we weren't allowed to leave. Well, not necessarily that, but it's not safe for us to leave.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, so how was that then? So you grew up in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Coming to Chicago. How was that transition?
Well, so the student body at my high school was pretty liberal, I guess. Like, we started a Gay Straight Alliance club, and like we were very vocal about, like, there was this one particular lesson in our morality class, because it was Catholic high school, we had to take those classes, where the teacher was like, how you're perceived is how you carry yourself. 2 girls can go to the dance in the same dress, and one is a slut and the other is not. Wow. And we were like, excuse me?
That's good that you were able to put that filter on.
We all like, excuse me? What? So, so yeah, no, it was like, there were definitely some like people in the high school because it's like a very conservative area,
Sure.
but like
That's good
like
that you had a
overall,
pocket
we
of
had like
safety.
a pocket of,
That's
and
good.
we were very vocal. Like there was symposium every other year was when alumni would come back and talk about their careers, and there was a speaker at the beginning and end of every symposium. And so then otherwise it was like but each alumni would have a classroom, and you would like go through the classrooms to like visit everybody.
Okay.
But like one of the speakers was like from an etiquette company, and she was trying to tell us like that we had to like it was all like subliminal messaging also. Like all of the examples of what not to wear to an interview were black women. And like black women in leggings, and we were like in all of the pictures, like not a single good picture of what to wear to an interview was a person of color. And so we were like,
Oh my God.
no.
Yeah. Well, and thank God you were able
And
to
we
be
all like stood up. I don't remember, like there's
Just all.
well, because we were all in the auditorium,
Okay.
and the way our auditorium is structured is just, it's like it's very similar to our auditorium here, where
Okay.
there's no like built-in seats.
Right.
And so all of the chairs were just like, and then the stage.
Mhm.
And so they seat us by class, seniors in the front, freshmen in the back.
Mhm.
And I was a freshman at the time, sophomore.
I won't fact check you because I don't know.
I think you know what, I think I was a sophomore because I knew the girl who stood up. She was a junior because then we were in the same Spanish class the next year.
Okay.
But she like, when you raise your hand to speak and like ask questions, you stood up. So she raised her hand, she stood up, and she said something, and we were all like, no bullshit from this lady.
Good.
It was like,
Yeah.
but so, and they like had to release an apology about it, and we were like,
I mean, good.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows how much
As
of an
they
impact
should.
you can make. And I
So.
think, like, that must have been nice that it probably wasn't too much of a culture shock when you came here.
yeah, no, it was great. Like, this is like, there's definitely some like more conservative people like who go to the school, but
Sure.
like.
But I mean, it's like
in
refreshing.
general.
I feel like when they go on tours and people, like, I went on a tour and it was like, they have like free, like, you know, sanitary products for women, and then they have, you know, like just
Yeah.
these different offices and whatever. When I was, I think I was a freshman in high school, I was getting confirmed, and they brought in this like really young couple to our church. And I'm in the burbs of Chicago. It's fairly liberal, and they talked about how like being gay is a form of depression, and no one stood up. But I remember we went back to like our separate classrooms, and the room just exploded. And I was like, I was in theater at the time. I was like, this is not, you know. And they're like literally talking about like herbal teas you can drink to like. It was this whole thing.
The essential oil Christians are so funny.
Oh my God. But anyway, so high school, you're leaning more into band, at least through the school. Yes. Yeah. And then are you still doing the choir?
Yes, I did the Cincinnati Children's Choir. I got into the like top choir or whatever in 6th grade, so I was in that choir until I graduated.
And singing soprano most of the
No,
time?
I was not a soprano until I got here. And I wasn't even a soprano until after my first year of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So like I sang alto 2, alto
Oh my
1.
gosh.
Like I was alto 2, alto 1 my entire life.
From my perspective, like all that I've known her, she has been like soprano 1, like the soprano 1. You know, where it's like anyone, you know, she'll be like, I only want a few people on the split. It's like Ellie. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I was like alto 2, alto 1 until like even in chorale I was alto 1. Like I was alto section leader in chorale, and I still do like alto. Like even in quarantine, I was alto in chorale. Yeah. I was alto section leader in chorale, but I would be soprano in chamber. And in quarantine, that was the first time she put me in chamber.
Oh my gosh.
In soprano in chamber. And so I was like,
You're like,
this is a little different from my entire life.
It's so funny. You get used to hearing certain parts, or like, you know, it's like I'm never used to. I remember I had to sing the national anthem with this like group of 4 singers, and the soprano had a problem, I don't know, and so I had to sing the melody of the national anthem, and I like had to go over it a million times because I was like, how does it?
Yeah, it's
natural
stuff like
to
that. Like, I don't think I've ever done like doing the melody on Silent Night this year was weird.
Oh, okay.
And all the choral and the carols,
Okay.
all of the carols, because I've done in Lessons of Carols, I've done all alto
Mhm.
up to this year. So
Just never be comfortable. I guess that's the.
yeah, I mean, I just yeah.
Did you? So when you were in the children's choir, that's what was
Yes.
it? Okay. Did you? Was there moments where you were like, I'm kind of good at this, or that you were like, I love this, like moments, because
Yeah.
like the fact that you and I like can relate in some way of like I didn't claim my music major until like second semester of my freshman year, but were there standout moments that it was like, this is something that I love and I'm kind of good at, like.
Yeah, I mean, I was always like I was always like that kind of, I was a little stereotypical choir kid.
Stereotypical soprano.
We should have known. No, there's this specific TikTok that I'm thinking of where this girl like goes through the sections and is like,
I feel like I know who you're talking
I
about.
think I sent it to you.
Yeah.
But I like have elements of the alto and soprano
Mhm.
like stereotypes or whatever, like thinks they're rhymically superior, like intellectually superior in the alto section, but like thinks they're the greatest thing that happened to music. Like
I like my soul identifies with the alto section because that's what I was for the longest time.
Me too.
But that's so funny. But you were able, like, things were and like
I mean, like there was definitely a hierarchy in the rows of like seating placement, you know,
Okay.
like
okay.
the back row so bel canto was the top choir. So
Okay.
like once you get into bel canto, you're like set.
You're cruising.
And that's the choir that goes on tours. That's the choir that like
oh, wow.
there's a summer camp, and bel canto's the camp counselors for it. So
Okay.
like
oh, that's fun.
and everyone else who wants to participate in that camp has to be like camp kids.
Okay.
So like we get to be the counselors, but y'all have to be like in the camp, you know. So so like I got into bel canto and I was kind of like, you know, like I was in 6th grade at the time. That's the first year. That's the first age you're able to get into that choir. So
Okay.
I was like,
So you're like,
I made it. Like, but then like, I think the biggest measure of my growth as a singer was like repeating songs.
Mhm.
So we did my freshman year. We did the song called my freshman year. Excuse me, my 6th grade year, my first year in that
You're
choir.
old.
We did the song called Ponta Rei, and I was an alto too, and it required bamboo sticks.
Okay.
So it goes Ponta Rei, Ponta, and the sticks are like 6 feet tall. They're like massive, and I didn't get to play one my first year. But the girl who graduated, she was a senior my 6th grade year. She sat behind me and she was like my idol. I idolized her. She was so good. She got to play one.
Mhm.
So when we repeated that song, I was like, I have to play bamboo stick.
Yeah.
I require it. And I was like, I was not the director's like favorite. I was
Sure.
like, I was up there in her favorites, I think. But her like favorite in the alto section, Abby, was asked who she thought would do well on the bamboo sticks, and Abby knows that I wanted to play. And
So
Abby,
this is the girl that was like playing that you were like.
no,
Oh, okay.
she was only 1 year older than me.
Okay.
So the girl who graduated, Daria, she was a senior when I was in 6th grade. So she like graduated immediately. I only had 1 year with
Okay.
her. But Abby, I sat next to her for like a lot of years.
Mhm.
So Abby was like, I think Allie would do it. And
You're like,
so I
think so too.
I got to do the bamboo sticks, but I realized that when I was in 6th grade learning the vocal part, I learned it wrong. And so like I had to like relearn the song because first of all I switched parts, but I also like
Okay.
learned the song wrong. And we also repeated another song
Okay.
my senior year. We did Holy is the Lord. Where did I go I think my 6th grade year was I didn't go on that tour. That is a different story. Separate the stories.
I know there's like so much.
There's so much.
There's so much.
And like I was in that choir for like 10 years, so like there's a lot of stories.
That's so interesting.
But
I love that though.
we did Holy is the Lord my 6th grade year, my first year in the choir.
Freshman in middle school, right?
Freshman in middle school. We technically would be a senior in elementary school, but it's okay.
Oh.
Because middle school was only 7th grade.
Okay.
for me. Anyway, we did Holy is the Lord 6th grade year, and then we did it again my senior year, so I like started and ended with my favorite song.
Oh,
I was like, oh, I learned this wrong. Like,
those moments are so tough, but they teach you so much.
Yeah.
They're like, but then you're like, oh, I'm gonna improve so much. Like,
Yeah.
here we go. Here we start.
And one of my moments where I was like, I'm actually good at this was there's a solo section in Holy is the Lord, and my 6th grade year we did it as solos, and then my senior year we did it as sections, or like years. Like the first solo was seniors only.
Okay.
And it was like, I was an alto too, so I sang like, I was singing like kind of down there in the like G, A range, and then the solo was up in like E5, like that range, and like we were in this church, we were spread out, and the other choirs were sitting in pews. I think we were in Ireland.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, we were in Ireland. Okay, so the younger choir was sitting in pews because for whatever reason, they decided to bring the choir just below us to Ireland too, and I was like, no, you don't get to like, they don't get to tour until they get to whatever. It was controversial,
obviously.
And then we did another song called "Even When He Is Silent." It's never mind.
She's calling me a bad Catholic.
No. There's another song that we did that's pretty much the same. It's the same lyrics, but because it was taken off the wall of a concentration camp from the Holocaust, and it was kind of like, I believe in God even when He's silent. So that's
so powerful.
The one that we did when I was like younger was like a 2-part soprano alto, very simple, like very cute. And even when He is silent, that piece was like a 4-part, like very intense, very difficult piece, and that it went really low in the alto range. And so I did the solo in Holy is the Lord, and I did Even When He is Silent, and the like younger choirs that were sitting there next to us like came up to me after the concert, and they were like, your range is so big, and I was like,
those things mean so much. So I think I'm so sensitive to, and it sounds so stupid, but to like compliments, because so many people be like, no, you're so good, but like people complimenting your range, people saying, I had no idea you could sing like that. Like there are certain things that people can say after a performance that you're like, there's no way that they would just like you wouldn't compliment someone's range, like you don't have to do that. So it's like that. I love moments and stuff like that. Ireland, that's so cool. And that reminds me, so you said that was your senior year?
That was my senior tour.
That's awesome. And now I know second semester this year as a senior, we're kind of delving into a similar kind of like, it's more social justice, but it's like this super complicated, like, I don't even know if we're allowed to talk about it, but I think that's enough out there.
I kind of don't know what you're talking about. So.
But I feel so bad because I'm like, oh my gosh, I could literally, there's so many stories just in that experience, but I do want to move on to college stuff. And we've kind of already touched on like, you were like, hey, chemistry, and then you're like, no. So how did you go from chemistry to like full-on music major? Like how did that all come about to you?
I don't know. So I was in so I took AP Chem in high school, and I passed the AP exam. I didn't get a 5, but I passed it. So
I think you need to get a 4 or 5.
I think
get credit.
I must have gotten a 4. I think I got
That's very
impressive. 3 on A-Push, but I didn't take A-Push. So
I got a 3 on A-Push too. I was so angry.
Well, I didn't even take A-Push. So like I just kind of like, I was like, I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna make stuff up. I ended up like, I think I was so bored during the AP exam because I just didn't know any of the answers that I colored an entire page black.
Oh my god.
I also took naps during every single one of my AP exams.
Oh my god, Ellie. I think you were you the kind of student who was like so smart that they didn't really even have to try?
No.
Okay.
No, but I was a quick test taker and I didn't check my work. So if I was done, I was just done. So I took a nap.
Good for you.
I would go back to the ones where I was like, I think I was onto something here, but like I need to go back and review. But like if I was like, I have no idea, I'm just guessing, I wasn't gonna try.
Literally so yesterday, like every test I take, I like go through it once and I circle like everything and I have to like cross it off when I'm sure and I go back. Like I am like all about I'm second guessing myself. It's so funny. They're like, and then I took a thick nap.
I've definitely changed a little bit. So like when I would take music theory exams, like Keith's take home exam for 3.
Okay.
I would like do the ones that I knew how to do immediately. I don't have to like go through and circle or anything, but like
So I'm not that crazy.
No, you're more organized than me, but I would go through and I'll like mark off the pages at the bottom when I'm done with them.
Okay, yeah.
So I do things out of order, but I just like I go through and I do it until I'm done, and then I'm like, turn it in, you know.
Yeah, so chemistry.
But yes, so I skipped out of the whole point of that story was I did not take Gen Chem again.
Okay.
I went straight to Orgo.
Okay.
And I went. I'm gonna do that every time you get an email.
I'm so sorry.
No, it makes me happy. And then I also went into Calc 2 and then to multivariable. So in Orgo, my first semester Orgo professor, Dr. Becker, was also super into music. And so I would like go to his office hours and we would just talk for like a really long time about music.
Oh, that's awesome.
He emailed me like a couple weeks ago and was like, I think you've graduated, but like, how are things going? And I was like,
hey buddy.
He was like, I was thinking about that bread you baked me. And I was like, what? Like 3 years later. He's emailing me about the bread that I baked, and I was like, Daniel.
That's what they would be like with college professors. Like, they're so strict yet casual at the same time.
He was so precious. On Halloween, he gave us a lecture on bats instead of teaching us about chemistry. He was so sweet. He was just like one of those old dudes, you know?
Yeah.
He would like bike to work too, and I'm like, Daniel.
Same
anyway, so he was like, we would talk about music a lot, like, and I would go for Orgo, but like we would do like, it would be like 30 seconds of Orgo and then like a lot, like half an hour of music.
Okay.
And so like I would invite him to my choir concerts. I am definitely going to send him a personal email inviting him to my senior recital.
Oh, I love that.
But like
she said it here first.
I said it many places. So he was like, I wasn't thinking about switching majors until my second semester, but like he was like a positive influence. And then like I was in chorale obviously, and I got to meet Dr. Hedegaard there, and I couldn't do chorale my second semester because of scheduling or something.
Okay.
Oh, because I was over credits. And so Steve had already offered to let me into Scola for no credit, and so I emailed him and I was like, can I take you up on the offer this semester? And he was like, sure. So I got to be in Scola. So my record is unbroken.
Just for the record.
It is unbroken. So I was in Scola, which was super fun. But then, I don't know, I guess I was just like Orgo 2 was kind of like downhill from Orgo 1. I had a different professor, and I liked him. He was great. But like, I was just like, there was a lot of memorization that I just... And I was like, I'm so good at memorizing music. Why am I not as good at memorizing compounds?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So then I was like, what? And I was like, I would find myself in the practice room, and I would like, because did I even have access to it?
I think at 10th, right?
I might have purchased access to it. I don't remember. This is a long time ago.
She's a senior. She's old.
I mean, and so I was kind of like, nah, I'm out. I was also in multivariable, and I actually really, like, that was my favorite math class, was multivariable. Because, like, at that point, all you really need is the stuff that you learned in Calc 1.5.
Okay.
And then once you've mastered that stuff, you're good in multivariable. There's just, like, a couple more things that you need. And so, like, I was just, like, zipping through it, and I love
like, this is great.
I love multivariable. My favorite class to tutor is Calc 1. I have not yet tutored Calc 2, so I don't know. But I really love tutoring Calc 1 because integrals and derivatives are like...
I miss taking classes like that.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so yummy. It's
so delicious.
And I think it's like coming at it from a math perspective, coming at music. Like I think about like Klaus. Another person is like, math-minded people. Like that seems to be something that is more common than I ever expected.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just made the decision at some point. I was like, and I was
So
just
was that music major or vocal performance? Like, what
I just went straight to vocal performance because I knew that I didn't want to major in piano.
Okay.
So, because I was like, I'm okay at piano, but like I'd rather be in choir for the rest of my life. So like,
yeah, amen.
yeah. So
that's how you do
I
it.
don't know. And then I was in this. Did you hear about FIRE, First Year Research Experience?
Mm-hmm.
So I was in that, and I was in the physics group. And I don't know, one day he was asking us, like we were having a meeting, and he was like, all right, is everyone a physics major? And I was like, no. I think I just like, it just slipped out. I just like audibly was like, no. Like in that tone of voice. And he was like, so what majors are everyone? And he went around, and I was like, well, I used to be chemistry, but now I'm music. And he was like, oh, well, I know this other physics faculty member who does research in music. You should work with him for this instead of me. And so I met up with Dr. Gordon Ramsay. God, what a man. I love him so much.
Shout out.
Shout out to Dr. Gordon Ramsay. I think the music faculty should know him. He's great.
Well,
anyway,
we do now, so.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. But we did, looking back on it, the research that we did was like, just like objectively bad. Like not like wrong necessarily, but like I tried to be, my technique was just not there. I didn't have vocal technique.
Sure.
So like, I tried to do like the comparison of the frequencies that you hear between musical theater and classical singing, but I have neither of those techniques at that point in time. So now I have classical techniques, sort of, but I definitely don't have any musical theater techniques. So like, the research that we did is just like,
that's cool to know.
You should just throw that out. But but it was fun.
Experience.
And I was the only one. So me and my friend Natalie West, do you know her?
I think so.
She plays French horn.
Heard the name for sure.
Yeah, she's great. She's a physics major. So she was also doing research with him at the same time. So me and Natalie were doing research with Ramsay, and everyone else in the physics group did research with this other guy. And all they learned how to do was code. But they didn't do any research. They just like learned how to use this one program. And I was like,
thank God.
And I was like, I have a presentation to give at the end of this, and you don't. So that's
amen. And you got to like
speaking of that,
your love.
I should probably have put that on my resume. But I don't want them to look at the research, so we're just going to pretend it didn't happen. Well,
that's a fantastic segue anyway. And again, we could talk forever about like, you know, here you are now and like doing all this stuff where it's like, I think, you know, to me, you like, it's like Ellie and you're like music, you know, like where you're like Sponge and you're like Bob, like you just like that's just, I think, you know, and I don't know what your experience was with like starting this curriculum, but at least for me, it's been so much fun to just like lean into it, you know, almost too much that I'm like, oh, I have theology class to like study for, and I'm like, oh my god, whoops. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about how you kind of figured out your like specialty and just like what your passion and where that came from and how that led to what you think you're going to be investing in next.
Yeah,
because you're a senior and you're old.
Don't remind me.
I hang out with way too many seniors.
I'm gonna graduate and leave you behind. How does that make you feel?
Just like the bus driver.
So I don't know. I was kind of freaking out when I switched majors because I was like, I have to pick the whole major in 3 years. So I like just took as many music classes as I possibly could my first semester as a music major. So I was in like Theory 1 and shout out to Anthony. What else was I in? I don't remember. But I was in like a lot of music classes.
Right.
And so
you started taking lessons.
I started taking voice lessons, and I don't know, I just like jumped head first, and I like wasn't taking any core classes at the time either, which is stupid because now I have all my core classes at the end of my time, and it's dumb because I don't want to be taking. I should have taken women's and gender studies a long time ago, but that's a different point. I don't want to take a writing intensive next semester, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
She's a musician, ladies and gentlemen.
I hate writing. Which is why I'm going to go into musicology and write papers for the rest of my life. Anyway, I took, there's the 2 music history requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So I took History 2 with Father Charles, and that was COVID. That was the first semester of COVID, okay. So he kicked us off campus. He kicked us off campus. COVID kicked us off campus.
No, he personally invited you to leave. Did you take music theory too?
I did.
At the time
yes.
Why did we do that? Anyway, keep going.
So I took Theory 2 and Music History 2, and then over quarantine I took History 1.
Okay. And
History 1 is like ancient to Baroque, and that is so good. It's so good. I was like, what is this? What is this? I loved it so much.
That's so cool.
Pre-tonality is just immaculate.
So just taking that class, you were like...
I was like, what? Like, I always knew that I preferred, like, in the choir songs that we did, there's, like, a couple, like, contemporary choral pieces that I'm, like, okay with, but I would always, like, enjoy the ones that were older. Like, it was a treat when we got to do, like... We did St. Matthew Passion. As in the children's choir, we did Mahler's Eighth. We did we did Faust. We did Tosca. We did like all of these kind of bigger works, and those were my favorites. Oh, we did Carmina Burana like 3 times. So like those aren't quite as old as the ones that I enjoy doing, but like that was the only exposure that I got to like that I got to like classical music in children's choir, because they don't write easy classical music for children.
Well, I mean, they do, were like weird, So you learned about this. You're like, oh my god! Did you bring it then into lessons, or?
I don't think immediately, but like, we were doing. What did I do? Because like my first semester, I did Gluck. I did. Oh, del mio dolce ardo, brava, dolce ardo, brava. Anyway, I did that, and I was like, I really loved it when I picked it, and then at the end of the semester, I was like, I hate this song.
That's always how it works. Oh my god.
But like actually, this is kind of telling. I didn't know what to pick, because the only 2 instruments that you have to audition to take private lessons for are voice and piano. So when I decided to switch majors, I like realized that I had to sign up for an audition. So in the spring semester of my freshman year, I signed up for an audition for voice and piano. I had been playing piano.
And piano.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been taking piano lessons since I started, but like being a major. I've been playing piano my whole life. I knew how to prepare a solo. Like I just went through my rep that I've done, and I was like, I played this in 7th grade. I could probably pull that out in like a couple days, like whatever. But I had never taken private voice lessons before, and I had never done a solo before in my life. Like I've had an occasional. I think I've had like 1 solo in the children's choir.
Oh my god! I mean, that should be such a testament to this program. I mean, anyone who knows you now,
shout out to Dr. Hedegaard.
Dr. Hedegaard is amazing. I think that is one thing that and I did take lessons in high school, and they were great. But I remember my first lesson, and it was only a half hour. Now I get an hour with Dr. Georg or class, and it is like I leave every lesson feeling like frustrated but inspired and motivated It's so amazing how much they're able to do.
They're crazy.
They're crazy.
They're so good.
But Kirsten,
for this audition thing, I knew Danny Warwick at the time, and so I was like, you voice, help me pick an audition piece.
You do the singing,
and he was like, go buy this 24 songs and arias book and just pick one out of there. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, and so I picked Amarili Mia Bella by Caccini, which is a Baroque piece.
Interesting. And you're singing in your senior recital,
I am, yeah. So I like...
Oh, Amarili Mia Bella.
It's so good. So I like just the fact that I was drawn to that genre already, even before I even knew what it was.
Yeah.
Is interesting. But anyway, so I don't remember the kinds of pieces that I was doing. If I had my iPad, it's right there. Anyway, I can tell you. But I don't know. But then after I did this, I don't think she had me doing any Bach before then. Mm-hmm. But I think because she was holding off until I was ready for it.
Okay.
And then she was like, we need to do a Bach. And she gave me Ich folge dir gleichfalls, which I'm also doing for my auditions. And that is a lot of runs. And it's like, Ich folge dir gleichfalls mit freudigen Schritten. It's just like a lot of notes.
But
and so like
in a way that you were like excited to tackle it.
I was so excited. The way she's been doing it, actually for my senior recital it was a little different, but like, up until recently, she had been like, here are 5 songs, pick from the list.
Okay.
So like, she would give me things that she thought I was ready for, that she could find teachable moments in, and I would pick one that I liked.
Okay.
So it worked for me because I didn't want free reign, because I was like, I've never done this before.
Sure.
I don't even know who Brahms is. Like, like who are these
How
people?
lovely.
So,
so yummy.
Anyway, so I got some agency in the song that I was picking, but she could still control it.
Sure.
So that was good for me.
Yeah, that's nice.
So she gave me a couple Bach pieces to pick from, and that was the one I chose.
Okay.
So that was a me thing. She only gave me like a couple actually. Because she wanted me to do something early, because we had not yet done anything early, I think. And so she was like, here's a couple Handel, here's a couple Bach, here's a couple like whatever. Sure. And so I picked Lascia Kyopyanga by Handel, and I forgot it.
I was gonna say, I was like waiting.
And the Ich folge dir, and I loved that. That was so fun. So the next semester this semester I asked for another Bach. Okay. And so she gave me Zoysa Tränen, which is very different. Because that's the one I sang in the DVC. Where it's like,
oh, that was cool. Yeah. The grieving.
She had me rocking. That was so funny. Anyway, so I asked for more Bach, and she gave me that, and I was like, this is not what I expected, but I love it. Like,
that's so exciting.
And then we did the Strozzi, and we did this whole early Italian thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Barbara has my heart. Like, I love her. So I was picking music, and I was kind of leaning towards early music anyway, and I was just so into it, and I still have pieces from History 1 stuck in my head. There's one. I can picture the music on the page, but I can't think of the tune. It's a round, and it's I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, I just listen to those pieces. I just go listen to my History 1 playlist for fun.
So fun. I love that all started I think that's what's so cool about this program. So how do you take that then, and these new experiences and more recent ones, into you're graduating soon, what do you want to do? How do you find that niche, little,
So I was going through programs, and I emailed a bunch of professors, and I was like, how do you figure out what you're doing? And they were like, I just did something and it worked out. And I was like, thank you
very much.
That's what pretty much every single one of them said.
No, that doesn't surprise me.
So they were kind of I enjoyed doing this. I planned something. It went the opposite direction, and I'm happy with it, kind of thing.
Right.
None of them planned it.
The path is that there is no path. If you're on a path,
exactly. So, Dr. Lowe, for example, only went to Northwestern to study with Mallory Thompson, who is the name, one of the only the best teachers of conducting in. He studied with her because she saw him at a summer convention conducting in this workshop or whatever, and was like, you should apply. So those chance encounters are the reason that people anyway. So I was looking through programs, and I was like, well, I kind of want to teach, because I've been a tutor for most of my recollected school time. So I was like, I enjoy teaching. I've been tutoring for forever. I would love to teach a music history class or direct a choir. But I also want to study these other things. So music education was on the board, conducting was on the board, just straight vocal performance on the board, musicology was also on the board. But then I was looking around and I was like, oh, Juilliard has this degree called historical performance practice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so I looked into it and I was like, I wonder if I could do historical voice. Most of the places that offer historical performance practice degrees don't offer historical voice because it's all like harpsichord, viola da gamba, forte piano, like not voice.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, Baroque flute, recorder.
Shout out to Brandon Acker, right?
Oh my god. Lute. Oh, I want to learn how to play the lute. I want to learn how to play the theorbo. That thing is cool. Anyway,
that's a really cool first date. Like just being like playing the theorbo.
I play the theorbo. Like, so I was
I haven't won you over by now. Listen to me playing the theorbo.
So I was like looking into all these different degrees, and I was like, I do not want to teach high school and younger, so a music education degree would be useful for me in terms of learning like educational philosophies.
Okay.
I have no interest in having a certificate to teach children.
Okay.
I don't like children. So I like knocked that off the list pretty quickly. And then I was like, I feel like I'm behind in conducting.
Okay.
Like, I feel like other people are going to apply to these conducting degrees and have more experience than me.
Okay.
So I knocked conducting off the list, but then I talked to Dr. Lowe and Kirsten, and they were both like, no, you're like way ahead of the game. Like, the fact that you will have private lessons under your belt is like way more than most undergrads, especially in choral conducting.
Nice.
So I was like, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna like be able to pursue conducting while I'm pursuing something else.
Sure.
And then I was like, I stumbled across like, I don't know, I think it was Case Western or something, and they offered historical performance practice in voice. And I was like, so it does exist.
Right.
And I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And so there are 6 programs in the United States, and I think 2 abroad in London that offer it. Except I think the Royal Academy of Music doesn't, so that's 1 abroad. But so I'm applying to 6 of the 7 in the States.
And that's like
5 of the 6.
That's where you're at right now. Like you're in the thick of all of this.
Yes.
Currently.
So I submitted 4 of them on Wednesday. So I'm applying.
Congratulations.
I'm applying to 5 out of the 6 in the States and the 1 in London. So
Okay.
Guildhall is the one in London that offers vocal studies, which is like not opera, and then I can focus on historical performance practice.
Okay.
So then Case has historical performance practice. Indiana, University of Southern California, Rochester, but that one is like historical performance. It's like voice, and then they also have a historical performance practice with focus in plucked instruments, and I was like, what is that? Like, so I added it as a second major, even though I have no experience with those instruments.
Okay. Interesting.
But so I'm like, but there's also like a Schola Cantorum, which is like their early music ensemble, music voice ensemble, and there was a early music vocalist on the faculty for the historical performance practice degree. So I was like, I can't major in historical voice, but I can major in voice with plucked instruments.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I'm gonna
apply.
Why not?
See
Yeah.
what happens. So there's that one, and then Notre Dame is sacred music, but it's like early sacred music because a lot of early music is sacred. Not all of it, clearly. But so there's that one, and then the one I'm not applying to is Yale because their application goes through the Institute of Sacred Music, and it wanted me to write an essay on why my goals align with their Christian goals, and I was like, I can't bullshit that.
Right.
I refuse to bullshit that.
Well, and it's like even if you get in, is that a program that if you're like, if this program requires me to do this, would I really be happy if I were to,
that's kind of even how I'm feeling about Notre Dame, because I'm like, there's such a vast repertory of repertory? I don't know. There's a vast amount of secular music that I'm interested in, that like, would I just not be allowed to study that there?
Right.
Or, like, am I restricted to sacred music? Because sacred music is cool and all, like, I'll study Bach's Passions, but like, I want to study Barbara Strozzi, and she only wrote like 1 or 2 sacred works. Right. You know, like.
Well, it looks like you've got plenty of options to explore that stuff. So from there, that's so exciting though. Like, that's insane. Yeah. So for you, how would you define success? like what is, and there's never, especially in music, it's like there's never this like, and then I'm done. Like there's always something.
There's always something.
But for you, as like you're you're almost finishing your first semester as a senior.
Yeah.
You're like in the thick of applying to grad schools. You know, you kind of know where you want to go. Like, what does success look like for you? Like with this perspective now.
I think it's like being able to see where I've come, like where I've been and where I am now. Like just like looking back and being like, oh, my first year here, I had no idea how to produce a vibrato, and now it's like fairly consistent. You know, like just being able to look and see the progress that I've made, that's success. Being satisfied with my like obviously I know that my performance will never be perfect, but like being satisfied enough with a performance of something that I can present it to other people.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy with this, with what I'm going to be producing for juries. Like that is an accomplishment. That's success.
Amen.
And so like I know that I have a lot more to work on, and that's great. I will always have things to work on. And if there's ever a point where I feel like I've done everything, that is a failure. Like there is always there's so much to know, and I feel so behind when I like even like applying to grad school. I feel so behind in music theory and music history and my technique and everything. I'm like,
which is so funny because I am here and I'm like, oh my god, like I listen to you and do that, and it makes me feel like I'm like, oh my god, I want to like.
You haven't taken all the classes that I took. You'll get there.
But yeah, and for like the future, like what do you envision that like this I will be, you know, I'm not going to say satisfied because I feel like every musician has to have, every successful musician in my opinion has to have like an itch, like they can never be satisfied. Shout out to Hamilton. But like what is that, you know, in your dreamy dreams, you know? I
just want to like share it, you know, like I didn't know early music existed. Like my piano teacher growing up didn't let me do Bach. Which was, like, looking back on that now, I'm like, Terry, what? Like, she just didn't like Bach. So, like, I did Chopin and Beethoven and other things, and, like, which was fun, but, like,
but you're like, maybe I want to play more than Schroeder played in Charlie Brown. Like, maybe
why? Like, and she would let me do, like, early, like, or not early stuff, but, like, contemporary stuff, but, like, wouldn't let me do earlier. Not that I specifically wanted it, because I didn't know it was there, but, like...
But like Terry,
I was like,
slacking a little bit.
She like, I don't know. Anyway, so like I didn't know that early music existed. Like I didn't realize like when we did St. Matthew Passion, like I didn't realize where Bach was on a timeline.
Right.
So like I didn't know that all of this early music existed. I didn't realize what we have in terms of like physical records of music. Like up until ancient Greece.
You're like connecting all these dots and you're like, wait a second, these fit into this
like,
thing. Yeah.
I want to be able to like take my knowledge of early music and be like, look, it exists. Like, isn't this so cool?
Yeah.
And just like, I want to teach it and I want to perform it. And like this is kind of what I've been writing about in my essays. Like, I want to take it out into the community and just like show it to people because it's like not well known. And I also want to like, because most of the people that are early musicians, like early music composers, I guess, the ones that we learn about are cisgender white men. So like, I want to, I mean, white is questionable. They're all European men.
Straight is also questionable.
straight is also questionable.
That's a whole other podcast subject.
Anyway, well, Barbra Streisand, they kind of thought she was a prostitute. So like.
Any woman.
Well, yeah. But then the source that I was reading, this is a tangent, but the source that I was reading was like, she was too busy with her children and composing to be a prostitute. And I was like, if she's gonna find time to be a prostitute if she wants to be.
If she wants to be a prostitute, she will be a prostitute.
She was rich as hell. She would have found time. She probably had a what are those called?
You're like, I'm pretty good at math, and like, there are other hours in the day.
What are those things called? A governess. She probably hired a governess for her children. Anyway, like I just want to be able to like also break out of the
have children and compose and be a prostitute.
No, I want to be able to break out of the like, oh, the only people composing at that time were men. Like no, Barbra Streisand, Hildegard, like even beyond Hildegard, like she wasn't the only woman who was composing Gregorian chant.
Right.
Like she couldn't have been. Like, she's just the one we remember. So, like, I want to be, like, go in there and be like, look at this.
Yeah.
And also...
Like, it's okay to know Bach, but know it as much as you know. Like,
yeah,
all these
exactly.
other,
So, like, I want to break out of that trap and, like, teach and perform. And also, like, music itself is not accessible to lower income people.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I want to go, like... I don't know, in the community hold, like, I haven't, like, super thought in detail about it because I'm not there yet, but, like, hold, like, workshops in the community, but, like, and, like, this is early music, this is classical music, this can be cool, it can be fun, it's not DJ Khaled, but it's fun in its own way, you know, like...
No, I think learning and, like, personally for me, like, performing with other people is, like, my favorite way of connecting with others, and I also think that music is, like, a universal way of communicating.
Yeah, it is. Like, do you have the time?
Mm-hmm.
I have therapy at 1.
Oh, it's 46.
That's okay, we have time. One of the tours that we went to Japan, and we were there with a tiny Chinese children's chorus and a high school age Japanese chorus. Mm-hmm. The Japanese girls didn't speak English at all. And so the Chinese kids were translating for us.
Wow.
They were like tiny. They were like... They were like between 8 and 12. Wow. And the Japanese girls were like high school age. And we were in there somewhere. And... there was one song that we were doing in Japanese, and I don't know, for some reason, I can't remember why, but we had one of the Japanese girls conduct it instead of our conductor. Yeah. And it was just like, everything was fine and clearly communicated. Like, even though we didn't speak Japanese and they didn't speak English, like, and we didn't have any trouble rehearsing because our conductor was clear enough that they could just get what they needed out of what she wanted us to change from her gestures. Mm-hmm. So, like, I just think that's so cool.
No, it's such a testament to, like, just how powerful.
It's just universal. Like, even, like, but that requires some degree of, like, classical training. Yeah. And, like, experience in a choir. Like, you couldn't just, like, put a bunch of kids in the room who don't speak the same language and with no experience of being in a choir or watching a conductor and expect them to do fine. But, like...
but there's something to be said about the fact that that could happen, you know, just like, as much as we see around people that it's like, you know, like all those signals, like we can also use that to communicate in a way that like creates music, like it's hello. Yeah. So anyway, buddy, thank you for talking with me today and the people.
Look out for episode 2 of our podcast. Of our podcast that's not related to this podcast.
What are 3 artists that people are listening to this what should they listen to? If they're gonna
Barbara Strozzi.
All three of
them are Barbara Strozzi.
No, that's fair.
You know, Strozzi's kind of hard to find recordings of.
Well, I'll have your like information linked in if you
there's an album that Paul Beyer did that I am heavily using to write the accompaniment for my Strozzi piece for my recital, so I will give you that link. So Barbara Strozzi, I don't know.
No, but I think that's if you want to emphasize that point enough.
I'll just stick with that. Like I like Bach, he's great, but like everyone knows Bach.
Yeah.
Although I will link. I'll give you the link to my motet playlist because his motets are superior to anything else he's written. His motets are so good.
You heard it here. Well, again, thank you, and good luck and everything happening in the future with grad school. I love you very much.
Love you too.
I don't know how we sign off. What do we do?
Bye!
Peace!